I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, our prophet, our teacher, our beloved prophet, is his final messenger. Verily, the best of speech is the book of Allah, and the best of guidance is the guidance of our prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And verily, the worst matter in this religion are the newly innovated matters. For every newly innovated matter in the religion is an innovation, and every innovation is a misguidance, and every misguidance will lead its people to the hellfire of Allah. إخوتي في الله, my dear respected sisters, my beloved brothers, أشهد الله أني أحبكم جميعا في الله. Make Allah my witness. I love everyone who says La ilaha illallah for the sake of Allah. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the same way we gather today, to gather us under His shade with those who loved each other for the sake of Allah. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Today's khutbah, inshallah, is about one question. Why are you a Muslim? Have you asked yourself this question? Unless you are a revert, you're born a Muslim, 90% of us has never even asked ourselves this question. Why am I a Muslim? My parents are Muslims, so I am a Muslim. What's the problem with that? The problem with that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He condemned people because they said, we are following the path of our parents. We are just following the path of our, blindly folded, following what our parents said. We don't ask ourselves this question. We don't, we're Muslim, alhamdulillah, and alhamdulillah. But unfortunately, this is not the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants any of us to be. This is not the true Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in fact, those who were before us, when they stopped asking themselves why they follow this religion or why they are doing this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described them the worst description that He can describe. He said, مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ حُمِّلُوا التَّوْرَاةَ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَحْمِلُوهَا كَمَثَلِ الْحِمَارِ. The example of those who were given the Torah and they haven't thought about it, they haven't carried it, is like a donkey who's carrying, a load of books. And doesn't know anything of those books, doesn't read about it. Many of us, alhamdulillah, memorize some Quran. Alhamdulillah, a lot of the children go to the Sunday school, read Quran. And this deen has become, unfortunately, like the previous religions. It's just something that we inherit from our parents. We go to the school, we read the Quran, we memorize the Quran because we have to do it. We don't ask ourselves, why do I have to do? Why? Why am I a Muslim? Why do I believe in those things? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for those who are asking questions, He said, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِلسَّائِلِينَ. There are a lot of signs for those who will ask questions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in many places in the Quran, and you'll find people who have memorized the Quran, will read it. أَفَلَا يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Don't they think? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He would describe how He wants you to learn this deen by saying, أَوَلَمْ يَنْظُرُوا إِلَى الطَّيْرِ فَوْقَهُمْ صَافَاتٍ وَيَقْبِضْنَ. Have you ever looked and contemplated about the birds? You look up and you see how they spread their wings, how they contract their wings. Actually, this description, the translation of this ayah, if you have read this ayah before, you can't find the meaning of this ayah in the book of tafsir. You can't say, I'll go to the book of Ibn Kathir to know the meaning of this ayah. This ayah, I have to go out and look and say and contemplate and think and ask questions. Don't be shy to ask questions. Don't say that, this part of the deen is really hard to understand. I really don't get it. Why? Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do one and two? And I'm telling you, I'm saying that because when I was your age, that wasn't too long ago, I still remember, I used to have those questions. And I used to go to my sheikh and say, I have those doubts about Islam. Like, are we really the only religion that's true? Like, everyone is saying that Christians are saying that, and Jews are saying that, and Buddhists are saying that. They say they are the true religion. Everyone is claiming they are the true religion. So, and then he would say, you have to go, it's a shaitan, he's making waswasa to you, go make wudu, make 2 rak'ahs. I go make wudu, have 2 rak'ahs, I still have the same question, didn't answer my question. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is encouraging that. And if you read the legacy of the prophets, one of the greatest prophets of our deen, actually the prophet who called us Muslimin, who is the prophet who gave us this name? Do you know, guys? The prophet who gave us this name, Muslim. Ibrahim alayhi salam. Who sammakum al-Muslimun. He's the one who called you this. And Ibrahim alayhi salam, when you read the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, you'll find that he's been asking questions since he was 12, 13 years old. He's a kid. And he's asking his dad, Ya abati, lima ta'budu ma la yasma wa la yubsir wa la yughni. Why are you worshipping those idols? Why are you doing these rituals? And when the answer didn't make sense to him, he said, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't, like what you're telling me is not satisfying me. He asked question when he was facing the king. He asked him, he said, Rabbi alladhi yuhyi wa yumeet. My Lord is the one who creates, he makes life, he makes death. And then when he said that I can do this as well, he said, Rabbi alladhi ya'ti bishamsi min al-mashriq. He is asking question. He didn't ask only question to be, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he's a prophet. And he wasn't shy to go and ask Allah, قال ربي أرني كيف تحيي الموتى. How do you bring back the dead from, to be alive again? This is something that's overwhelming. I can't imagine it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال أولم تؤمن? Aren't you a believer? He said, yes, I believe, but ولكن ليطمئن قلبي. Who amongst you had a question about Islam and went to a proper source, not the Google, not the YouTube video, and said, I want my heart to be satisfied? We had those questions, and you know what happens? We feel shy. You know what? Alhamdulillah, we're Muslims. And that's why we became very much like previous nations. I hear a lot. People come to my, from my age, your age, Christians. They say, yeah, my parents were very religious. They used to take me to the Sunday church. They take me to church, but you know what? I don't do it. I'm not practicing right now. It doesn't make sense to him. And unfortunately, a lot of Muslims are doing the same. A lot of Muslims are dragging their kids to the Jum'ah. They take them to, memorize some Quran. But when those kids grow up and in their own lives, they have their own lives, and because I was doing it for my parents, now my parents are no longer there. Why am I doing it anymore? Why am I doing it anymore? Ask questions. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يغفر لكم إنه لي ذنب القادر عليه. Can make just some room for the brothers who are to that. You can come a bit closer this way. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من النبي بعده سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وعلى كل الصحابة أجمعين وعلى تابعيهم وتابعي التابعين بإحسان ليوم الدين وبعد. إخوتي في الله أحبكم في الله. I want to wrap up. I know we have lectures, but I hope that we start to really investigate Islam. And if you end up understanding and being convinced, and I'm quite sure you'll be convinced. We have a religion that is asking you, go and challenge this Quran. There is no book. Find a book, a writer that wrote any book, and he says, I want you to take this book and try to come with something wrong in it. I'm challenging you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is challenging the humanity. Come and gather together and find anything wrong about it. But if you're asking the questions, and if you've been asked questions, please ask the right kind of questions. What are the right kind of questions? You know, when you're in a classroom, you're all in classrooms, and your teacher or your professor is given a lecture, and someone genuinely don't understand, and they have a genuine question they want to understand, and they ask this question. There's nothing wrong with that. But you know this, the class clown was asking any obnoxious question to just, make people laugh or raise some, issues about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want us to ask those questions, those stupid questions. And He said that in Surah Al-Baqarah. He said, أَمْ تُرِيدُونَ أَن تَسْأَلُوا رَسُولَكُمْ كَمَا سُئِلَ مُوسَى. Do you want to ask your prophet the same way Musa was asked before? What are those kind of questions? In Surah Al-Baqarah you'll find the name of the surah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them an order. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تَذْبَحُوا بَقَرَةً. They left everything. What is the color of the cow? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, a cow. Any cow. Then He said, okay, it's a yellow cow. Well, there are too many yellow cows. It's just we're a bit confused. You know those kinds of questions? You know when you read the story of Ahl al-Kahf, the people of the cave. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling a story of a group of young people your age who left their city because there was a tyrant who's oppressing them. They left with their deen, and people, they come to the surah, and guess what question comes to their mind? How many were there? What difference the number of them will make with you? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually, قُلْ رَبِّي أَعْلَمُ بِعِدَّتِهِمْ. In this ayah He says, Allah only knows their numbers. Don't ask about the numbers. And wallahi, every time I say go lecture about Ashab al-Kahf, the first, how many were there? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want you to ask this question. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in some places of the Quran, in the surah of the story of Musa alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told you in details how his mother felt and the relationship between the mother of Musa alayhi salam, and then people will come to me and say, what about his dad? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't mention his dad in the story. Allah doesn't want you to ask this question. It's not an important question. There are many things that you can think of the story, and vice versa. You read the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, you find that his mother is not mentioned in the story. Only the relationship between Yusuf and Abu and his father. And there is a reason. And it's there for a reason, for us to think about it, to contemplate. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning us. If we stop thinking, if we stop contemplating, He said that. Once you stop thinking, He said the next ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah as well, ثُمَّ قَسَتْ قُلُوبُكُم مِّن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ فَهِيَ كَالْحِجَارَةِ أَوْ أَشَدُّ قَسْوَةً. Once you stop thinking, once you stop this faculty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, this privilege that makes you different than the rest of the universe, that makes you better than the angels. When the angels they asked Allah, again asking question, they asked, why are you creating this kind of creation? Why, what's the reason? What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala respond to them? He didn't give them a reason. He said, قَالَ إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. I know what you don't know. What is that Allah, what is the reason? The next ayah will answer you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the very next ayah, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ. He taught Adam al-ilm, learning, the ability to learn. This is the answer. This creation, Adam, that you look down at him, malaika, you think you're a greater creation, he's got this ability to think, free thinking. And he's got this ability, with this free thinking, free will, he will come back to Allah and he will worship Allah and he will say, Ya Allah, I will give up my free will. I'm able to go right now and do whatever, but I choose to be here in this place to worship you. I give my free will to eat and drink during the month of Ramadan. I can't do this. It's not that I can't. It's not that I can't afford. But this is the whole core of our deen. If we forget about this, it becomes empty rituals. People are doing their prayers as if it's just an exercise. Going into ruku'ah, don't even think about it. most of the time we don't remember how many rak'ahs did I do. Most of the time, if we read Quran, if we are reading the Quran, we just, it's just a few words that we don't even think about them. And this is not the ruh, the spirit of this deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to think. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to challenge and ask questions. And if you have doubts about Islam, why do I have to wear hijab? What's the point of hijab? Ask those questions. Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to not to drink this or do that? Why? Why there are so many do's and don'ts in Islam? Ask those questions. Don't let them boil in your heart. And at the end of the day, you come to a point that, you know what? Islam is all about do's and don'ts. And it's too much. Because when it's just a very dry rules, when you learn Islam this way, it becomes a burden. When you look at the salah as a duty that, 5 times a day, it will look like a heavy burden. Not like the Prophet ﷺ thought about it. When it's the time for prayer, he would say, "Arihna biha ya Bilal." Like, bring comfort to our heart with this prayer. This is the time that I have with my Creator, in just the two of us, talking to each other. I'm saying a word and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is answering me, is saying a word to me. I say Alhamdulillah and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, oh my abd has praised me. It's a conversation between me and Allah, and I want to do this conversation. I want to put my forehead on the ground because this is the closest I can get to Him. And ask Him for things. And ask Him to make even my studies easier. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us all among those who will listen to what's said and follow the best of it. اللهم ردنا إليك مردا جميلا يا رب العالمين. اللهم يا ربنا واجعلنا من الذين يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم يا رب الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم لا تدع لنا في يومنا هذا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا دينا إلا قضيته ولا مريضا إلا شفيته ولا مسافرا إلا رددته ولا طالب علم إلا وفقته ونجحته. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واستغفروه يغفر لكم وأقيموا الصلاة.